Hey guys, welcome back to the Metal Lounge. I'm Forrest, joined by Frodo and Arwin. On today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the top 5 most iconic metal moments on TV. Following on from Knocked Loose's iconic performance on Jimmy Kimmel, we're going to be deep diving into that and reviewing and talking about that as well. Stay tuned for all that and more on today's episode of the Metal Lounge. At number 5, we've got Icy Stars performing Glow and What This Means to Me in 2011. We're going to be watching this now and discussing it. So yeah, out of all the metalcore bands of this era, I'm not sure how Icy Stars got this show. Like, I know they do have connections, but it's quite baffling, to be honest, of how they got this gig, and why they're performing these songs. I don't even think these songs were that big back in the day. I'm actually quite a big Icy Stars fan. I'm not a hater. I don't really know these songs. So this one is, it shouldn't even be in the top 5, but I just wanted to discuss. I wanted to know if anyone has any more info on this, because it's quite perplexing. I know these performances are live and like the sound's never great, but like they come on and like the guitar's out of tune. It's just a bit cringe. Like it's 2011, but like it still feels dated for that sort of time. Metalcore had moved on a bit. It's still that sort of 2009 sound. And as a metalcore fan and as a metalcore defender, it's a bit embarrassing, to be honest, looking back at this one. Like, I think they really fumbled the bag. Not many bands, like, in general, and especially not metal, get the opportunity to perform on Jimmy Kimmel, on national TV live. So the fact that Icy Stars got this at this moment in their career is it's perplexing. And the fact that they fumbled the bag is a bit embarrassing, to be honest. Like, it's not terrible, like, performance-wise, but it's like, yeah, they're properly in the studio. They're like performing at Jimmy Kimmel, and the songs aren't great, the performance isn't great, and then they're just misrepresenting the genre a little bit under no fault of their own. I don't know how this came about, but if anyone has any more information on that, I'd be interested to hear about how it came about, why it came about. Like, I think it was just one of those things that shouldn't have happened. A bit of a tough crowd as well. Like, it doesn't seem, something doesn't add up with this one. There's something sus going on. But we'll go to number 4 now. We've got Alexandria. Let's hope that they can do metalcore a bit prouder with this performance. This is more like it. Like, 2011 metalcore was popping off. This was also in 2011. Can you believe 2 metalcore bands got on Jimmy Kimmel? And this is when they moved to the outside stage area. And I'm sorry, but the sound engineer, I hope he's unemployed right now. That's a bit harsh, actually. But I hope that he got a bollocking, because the sound engineering is not good. It just sounds terrible. The guitars, you can tell like Danny's singing and he can't really hear himself. And it's a shame, but he still kills it. Especially compared to the Icy Star screamer in the last clip. The screams are just on another level. This was really peak Alexandria in their prime. Closure is quite a heavy one to do as well. It's really nice to see that. I'm not sure if they did any other ones. Really cool to see, actually. Like, the crowd were enjoying it. Yeah, the sound wasn't great. You could tell that they're a little bit uncomfortable in that environment. But I think that they smashed it, and it's a little bit like it's kind of generic looking back, but people forget that Alexandria, they pioneered that classic metalcore sound we all know and loved back in the day. So it was really special that they got to have their moment, and I think, unlike Icy Stars, it makes sense. It was well deserved. They're very similar bands from the same era. I think there's actually a story about, I don't know if this is true or not, I have to fact check, but there's a story that apparently Icy Stars actually gave their demo to Alexandria, and that was one of the things that got them on tour and on Sumerian record label. I'll need to fact check that, but a nice little fun fact there. But yeah, so 2011, like, I think the mainstream media was catching on to metalcore a bit, obviously, with a demand for them to be on Jimmy Kimmel. Alexandria smashed it. I think Danny did really well to stay composed with the technical difficulties, if have you, and the guitar sound a little bit off to me, but I think that's due to the sound engineer. Like, everyone looks like they put on a good performance, but it's just not good sound engineering. I think nowadays the quality for live performance editing and sound engineering has just moved on so much since 2011. That was like 13 years ago now. Yeah, I think that one was really cool. I was really into Alexandria back then. They were massive. I don't think people understand quite how big they are. They've definitely fallen off, that's the word I'm looking for. But they're still big. But back then in 2011, when Reckless and Relentless came out, they were the biggest metalcore band probably. I think they were bigger than Bring Me back then, in the UK anyway. Yeah, so this was a nice era. So it was Danny coming out of his emo black hair era, and he embraced his natural gingerness, and he was starting to become an American, starting to move to America, started talking like an American and getting drunk. But this 2011, he looks a bit sharper. I think this is like just before he started to become, even more of an alcoholic. I think we're glad that we saw him in this era and not, just after, when he started to become an American with like crazy shaggy hair and just like being a bit of a drunk. But yeah, really cool moment for Asking Alexandria, for them to look back on. And yeah, it's number 4. So that was Asking Alexandria. We're moving on to number 3 now. I love this performance. It's Dillinger Escape Plan performing Black Bubblegum on Conan, also a heavy metal pioneer of television. It's basically just Conan and Jimmy Kimmel from the looks of it. But yeah, let's just dive back into it. This one brings such a smile to my face. Such an iconic video. I wasn't even into Dillinger back then. It's 2008, the video. And but yeah, you can just tell that something special was going on. They really came alive in that performance. They're known for their live performances, and it's a lot of pressure to do it on live TV, and they absolutely killed it. They start off a little bit recluded, is that a word? They start off a little bit slow and steady, but then when they come into it, they don't disappoint. I really prefer these in the studio, in the sort of like talk show lounge area, if have you, instead of the outdoors area like we've seen with Asking Alexandria. I prefer that intimate. It's more iconic because the other ones on Jimmy Kimmel outside, they just feel a little bit like it could be a festival. You can just feel the atmosphere through the video. It's really fun watch. I loved how they got the amp on the stage, and the guitarist is screaming into the pickups on his guitar and jumps off the cab, and then Conan's got this glow stick and he's just like dancing and vibing out. It's just an iconic moment. They're not everyone's cup of tea, but yeah, a fun fact about Dillinger as well is so it's the members of Dillinger, the vocalist, he's now in Better Lovers, who released an album this year. Should check it out, it's really good. And with members of Every Time I Die, who have also been on Conan or Jimmy Kimmel, one of the two, weirdly as well. It didn't quite make this list, but really cool stuff from Dillinger. They killed the performance. The vocals are amazing. The instrumentalists of the band are on different levels than the first two as well. Like, you can just tell they're masters of their craft. Really like took that opportunity by the horns and killed it, and it's an iconic moment in metal TV history. So now to number 2. I want to talk on this one a little bit longer. So we've got the most recent one, Knock Loose, with Poppy performing Suffocate. I have only seen this video very briefly on Instagram, so I'm going to watch it properly now, and I'm just going to comment and have my live reaction for this one for you guys. I wish they were able to do this indoors. Like, it was such a sick performance, and they deserve a crowd, but I think they would even admit, like, it would be cooler if it was in the studio with Jimmy Kimmel, kind of a more intimate, unique setup. Like, the fact that it's outside, it's so cool, but it doesn't have that vibe. I think these festival style shows are Jimmy Kimmel's specialty now, but yeah, I think that's the only thing, is like, it's such it would have been cooler if it was in the studio. They just look absolutely in their element there. They look like they were born to be on Jimmy Kimmel's stage. Like, they are really, living up to their name, Knock Loose. They're so tight. They're unbelievably tight, and props to the sound engineer on this one. He absolutely bodied it. Yeah, it's so cool to get to see them on this stage. They totally deserve it, and to see the crowd there with the mosh pit as well, it gives me goosebumps just watching it. It's insane. Poppy's screams are intense. They just sound so visceral, and I love that she's wearing like a wedding dress or some Disney princess dress. Like, the dichotomy between like her outfit and her voice and just the setup is just chef's kiss. It's fucking brilliant. I love her iconic talking parts as well, and the fact that they've mixed those differently to her screams. Like, it sounds amazing. Hopefully it sounded that good on the day, because I know a lot of post-production goes into it, but I don't care. Like, it just, the viewing experience now is amazing. It's so cool. The samba beat going left to right, and the pyrotechnics, the flames going left to right, that is insane. That's so cool. That scream by Poppy, that is like fucking chilling scream. That is spine-tinglingly heavy. Is that the first time there's been a pig squeal on Jimmy Kimmel? I'm pretty certain that's probably the first time. We're witnessing history right here. I love that they still have to bleep out the swear word, where it's just like the whole performance is so, like, for someone that doesn't listen to that music, it's so intense and like visceral. You can't even understand what they're saying. So to bleep out the swear word is quite comical. Like, what an iconic performance that is. I think that's going to go down in history as one of the greats. I've got it as number 2 today, so we've still got one more to go through. But I think that in years to come, that will still be looked at and heralded as one of the most iconic metal performances we've seen on a talk show. Like, I think everyone involved absolutely killed it in their prime. It's the right time. It's the right song. Having Poppy there really adds value as well. And the pig squeal, just everything about it is just perfect. I love that video so much. And I think it's going to do a lot for the metal scene in general. I think it's really cool to have eyes on the scene. You know, there's got to be some young kids, impressionable children watching that and being like, I want to do that. I want to know more about this world, and you know, the more the merrier. And I hope that it does bring more of a spotlight to the metal scene. I think it really will. One of the most iconic performances ever. Also, I wanted to speak a little bit about the backlash it received. I think that just makes the performance even better. It kind of adds it gives it a 4-dimensional that, like, of course it's going to offend some people if you're not used to hearing like screams like that. Like, not many people are. Of course it was going to cause a stir. Like, there was one quote about, oh, me and my son like look forward to watching this, me and my adolescent son, and it shocked and scared us. It's like, yeah, that's what it's meant to do. Like, that's what metal, it's theatrics, it's, you know, it's an art form. There's a lot of metalheads and there's a lot of different genres, and metal deserves this coverage to shine more of a light on it, and hopefully we'll see plenty more of these iconic performances. So that brings me to number 1. I think that, you know, that could end up being number 1, the Knocked Loose one. I think just from a pure how like amazing everything was pitched, like it's a contender for number 1, but you cannot mention a band like Knocked Loose, who, you know, they inspired from everything that came before them in hardcore and punk and nu metal. And I think that number 1 I'm going to have to give to Slipknot, because they paved the way, and they did this 20 years ago. A lot of people saying, you know, this is a massive moment for metal, which it is, but back when Slipknot recorded this in 2001, 23 years ago this was, and it's still heavy today, I've got to tell you. But yeah, I'm going to watch this and I'm going to give you my final thoughts on it. Oh, it still hits so hard, like 23 years ago, and it still hits hard. They've got a skull moving around on like a vinyl tabletop. They're all in black prison suits. They've all got the most crazy masks. And Corey Taylor's scream is deafening. It's so violent. What a moment this is. I know Conan said they played Wait and Bleed a year before, which I thought was really cool, but I think that Wait and Bleed is still, you know, a Slipknot song, it's still heavy. But to play the Heretic Anthem, which if you don't know Slipknot, it's a really heavy song to play on a TV show, and they're probably in the studio, and I think that's why it gave the edge over Knocked Loose to me, is I love to see it in the studio with the desk, with the host, in that iconic setup. It's just got a bit more of a vibe to it, you know what I mean? Joey Jordison, bless his soul, R.I.P. He's killing it on the drums. Like, drums just didn't exist like this. Like, not only the vocals and the music, but specifically the drums. He pushed the envelope with his drumming. I don't think we really had double kick like that before for Joey Jordison, like especially in nu metal and what came after. It's really impressive drumming. It's hard to put into words how heavy this was 23 years ago. Like, I'm only 30 years old, so I was 7, so I don't really have a handle, but I'm sure that anyone old enough can tell you, like, just music back then was not accessible as it is now, and to have Slipknot on a television show is just, it was outrageous. It was probably a lot more backlash than you would have got for Not Loose. But yeah, it's still heavy today, but back then it was unheard of. It was it really did push the boundaries of what was, you know, acceptable for TV. What a win that must have been for metal back in the day. It's a beautiful performance, and it sits proudly at number 1 for me of most iconic TV metal moments. That's just my thoughts, so let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If there's any I've missed, or if you don't agree with my order, maybe you think Knock Loose was better, which, you know, is debatable. But yeah, that's my top 5 most iconic TV metal moments. If you like this video, check out our channel. We've got plenty more like this, and we're releasing a new video every week on metal and the cousin genres. Yeah, give us a like, give us a subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.